Hello, I am Dari, and I don't do things in half measures. Shamu, everybody. It's taking a little while to make this video. I need to get my sources right. Sources are important. Um, One of my last videos talked about are the gods your friends. Good point was brought up of what the gods as subject, about the gods as object, and I do have more to say on this. In fact, I have a lot more to say. So this is going to become a little mini-series. I'm going to do this in parts. Of course, all of the parts will be together on my Substack, but since people seem violently allergic to my Substack, y'all can have it in parts here. What we are going to do is we're going to go on a little trip where we are going to look through history at what some of the most famous philosophers and theologians have to say on this evergreen subject. So, let's get started. So we're going to be reading off the working draft of my Substack for this. So I will be checking my notes constantly. So, the gods. One of the most common claims in modern spirituality is also, to me, one of the strangest, that the gods are your friends. We're told that the gods want a personal relationship with us, that they're rooting for us. They are proud of us. They're disappointed when we fail and pleased when we succeed. They seek companionship with us, affirmation, and intimacy in much the same way human beings do. This is very familiar to us. This is very comforting. It's emotionally satisfying. It's also sitting in stark contrast and very remarkably difficult to reconcile with much of the philosophical and theological traditions of the ancient world, where we get our stuff. We're going to go from Plato to Proclus, from Apollonius of Tyana to Iamblichus, from Maimonides even to Aquinas. We're even going to go from Al-Farabi to Spinoza and to Kant. Through this, we're going to encounter a recurring and, for some, uncomfortable theme. The divine doesn't need us. Gods are not impoverished without our worship. They're not strengthened by our offerings. They're not persuaded by our prayers. They are not emotionally dependent upon our devotion. In fact, many of the greatest philosophers and theologians of the Mediterranean world insisted that to imagine the divine in such terms is to completely misunderstand divinity itself. Now, I'm not arguing against prayer. I'm not arguing about giving sacrifice. I'm not arguing against your rituals, your devotion, worship, piety. I'm not arguing against any of it. Rather, this argument is about what these things are for. For over 2,000 years, even more in some extent, some of the most influential thinkers in Western religious history have maintained that prayer does not exist to change the gods. Sacrifice doesn't exist to feed the gods. Worship is not a thing to fulfill a need within the gods. These practices aim to transform us, the worshippers. The gods are what they are. The question is whether we are able to become something more than what we are. If we are able to step up to the divine. If we are able to change the internal systems that are ourselves. If we can alchemize and ascend our soul. That's what prayer's for. That's what ritual is for. Our devotion to the gods It's a devotion to our idea of the gods within ourselves. Our piety to the gods. It changes our behavior, literally rewires our brains to change who we are. The sacrifices, they are for us. There is an exchange of energy and a giving away of stuff. And that is what occurs when we sacrifice. All of these things that we attribute are for the gods. They're for us. They're for the practitioner. They're for the worshiper. They don't need us. They don't need what we have to offer. They aren't affected by these things. Now, I know that this is a very lofty claim to make, and I know many of you are like, Dari, what in the world? This makes no sense. I get it. I understand. We are going to go through this in the next couple days. I'm going to do multiple parts covering what these philosophers, what these theologians, I hate that word, theologists say, what these men of faith have to say about the divine and how we interact with it. And not just one man, but many, from many different walks of life, from many different times in history. We're going to sit here and we are going to reach back and we are going to listen to the voices of the past who are telling us about what we should be doing in the present. Oh, Dari, nobody should tell us what we're doing. We're kind of doing our own thing. If you hold these things sacred, if you truly hold these things sacred, then what the people who wrote on these things said, this should matter. This should be one of the most important things in your practice. Not the prayers, not the rituals, but what these people who lived with these religions had to say. And over the course of the next 8 or 9 videos, I'm not sure, we are going to deep dive. We are going to see what they had to say. We are going to learn who they are, and we're going to see how that applies today. Those are the 3 goals that I plan to do. Much like I set things up with my History of the Left-Hand Path, I have 3 points I wish to hit on in this series. This series is going to, of course, be much smaller and shorter than that one. That one quickly spiraled out of control. We'll keep this one reined in. Not much more to say here. This is introducing, what this series is going to be about. And hopefully by the end of the time you have walked this path with me, and we have peered back at history, that we will see and come out the other end with a completely different and completely honest discussion and view about the divine in all of its many forms. That's all for me tonight. I might do the next part here in a moment. We'll see. But until I see you in the next video, or catch you in the next live, or see you in my Substack, may your ancestors bring you the sweetest of portents. May you have the most wonderful of dreams. May you all stay cool. May you all stay safe. Shamu.